Hello, my name's Craig Barton, and welcome to a series of videos designed to help you make the most out of my website, diagnosticquestions.com. In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can get back all the data, responses and explanations from your students after you've assigned them a quiz, and how you can interpret that data and make meaningful comparisons. Now, to be able to do this, first you've got to have imported your students, and then you've got to have assigned them a quiz. So if you want to know how to do that, just have a click on the link in the bottom of the YouTube video in the descriptions, and that'll take you to a page where you can access all the how-to videos in this series. So I'm going to assume that you've imported all your students and you've assigned them a quiz. They've answered it either on their mobile phones, on their tablets or their laptops, and you now are itching to see how they got on. So let's take a look. So I'm going to click in assignments, and this gives me a list of all the assignments that I've set. And the one I'm interested in is this one, Mr. Barton's Year 11 Quiz 2. I set that to my students. There are 20 in the class, 19 of them started it, 18 of them have completed it, and I'm going to click on action, and now I want to see some data on that. So let's have a look at what this data page is going to show us about the quiz. Here it comes now. First, it gives us a headline figure to say that the average score across this quiz for my class was 66%. There were 20 attempts, and the average age of someone completing this quiz, because it's my Year 11s, is 15.8. And then I get a lovely little visual graphic here that shows me each of the questions and the performance of my students. And straight away, a number sticking out at me here. Question 6, 8 got it right and 12 got it wrong. Question 9, 6 got it right, 14 got it wrong. So now I scroll down and I can see each of the questions, and I can also see a load of dots. Now each dot stands for a particular student, and if I hover over it, I can see the student's name, and I can also see their explanation that they've given. So if I want to just scroll down to one of those problem questions, let's see question 9, and I can see a complete spread of dots. As I start to hover over here, I can get an immediate feeling of where these kids are going right or wrong. And incidentally, if I click on one of these dots, I can see that student's responses to each of those questions. So if I want to get a bit of a flavour for how Caitlin's got on in each of the questions, then I can do that by selecting that dot. If I scroll down, I get my entire class there. They're arranged in alphabetical order by surname. I can change that if I want, and that gives me a picture of their overall performance. So I can immediately see something like question 10 is causing no problems whatsoever to my students, whereas something like question number 6 or the one we were just looking at, question number 9, are causing no end of trouble. So we need to look at them in more detail. Incidentally, I can also rearrange these into highest performing, lowest performing, and so on. Right, so let's have a look what we're going to do now. So we've got a bit of a flavour that question 9 is causing problems. We need to look at that in more detail. So I'm going to click on either question 9 there or question 9 there. Either way, it's going to take me to the same page. Now this is your data question page, and any student can access this page, and it's a really important page for students to get to, and they can access it after they've answered a question or when they've finished the quiz, when they're reviewing their answers, and it takes them to a page where they can read correct explanations given by students all around the world and like them. And this is my idea for students being able to get personalised learning. They're not just given one answer or one explanation. They can read as many as they want until they find one that makes sense for them. But from a teacher's perspective, I'm interested in how each of my students in my class have got on that. So I'm going to click on advanced, and this is going to allow me to impose some filters. So I want to find my class. So instead of all users, I'm going to go for all students in class, and there's mine, 11A. If that wasn't my class, I'd click down there and find them. And I'm going to apply the filter there, and that's going to show me a quick summary of how my students have got on. So there they are there. So I can see 6 have got it right out of 20, and if I want that as a percentage compared to the rest of the world, I can see that I'm slightly underperforming there. As I scroll down now, it's now filtered out just my students' responses and just the correct ones. So I can see here Matthew McArdle's response, how he's explained it, has got 4 likes, and this seems to be really popular with students. And incidentally, if we just look at the question, it's all to do with speed, distance, time, and the big kind of problem seems to be between these, whether you divide by 60 or times by 60 to convert units. But what I'm more interested in, I'm interested in how kids have got it right, but I'm more interested in how they've got it wrong. So let's have a look. A very common wrong answer here was answer B. So let's have a look what answer B was. Answer B there was doing your distance divided by time, but then dividing by 60 to change by miles per hour. I wonder why my students did that. Let's have a look. So if I click here and I can go to answer B, I now get all the students' answers who've got it wrong. So I can see Caitlin is telling me speed is distance divided by time, but 22 is in minutes, so you need to divide by 60 as there are 60 minutes in an hour. So now, not only do I know Caitlin's made a mistake, I know exactly where she's made that mistake. Similarly with Beth here, because speed is distance divided by time, and then to make it miles per hour, you divide by 60. So I get a brilliant insight into how my students are thinking. And what I can do if I want is I can share the correct answers with my students. Or I can set them a homework to go and look at those correct answers and explanations themselves. And likewise, if I want to know why some of my students have gone for answer A, and answer A here was doing distance divided by time, I can see there, Georgia, to work at average speed you do distance divided by time, Curtis, speed equals distance divided by time. So they've got a misconception where they haven't accounted for the units. So I learn absolutely loads about my students by really delving into a question. But it's not just that, I can do more. If I go back to that quiz page just for a second, so I go to my assignments and I go to Mr. Barton's Year 11 quiz 2 and I just go to my data. I can also make some comparisons, because what we do in our school is we set our Year 11 quiz across different sets. So if I go to advanced, I've seen how my students have got on, but I wonder how my colleague Mr. Lynch's students have got on. So let's have a look at his class. Apply filter. And what I can see now is a comparison. I can see that column on average, his students are getting 84%, mine are getting 66%. And here I can see it on a question by question basis. So that question 8 that we were looking at just there, his 78% of his students got it right compared to 45% of my students. Sorry, that was not question 8, that was a different question there. I can see question 8 there, 45 compared to 78. If I look down at question 8, that's a question on angle facts, and his students are comfortably outperforming mine. So what I can do from that is two things. I can either look over his students' answers and explanations and think, right, can I use one of those? Is that better than the explanation I've been giving my students? Or I can simply have a word with Mr. Lynch and say, do you mind telling me how you taught angles, because your students have done really, really well on it. And that really does promote peer-to-peer learning amongst colleagues and sharing of good practice. So there's loads of things you can do on this page. One other thing I'll just show you as well is you can do a bit of advanced filtering to see whether girls are outperforming boys or something like that. So if Colin wanted to know how his female students are performing relative to his male students, he could do that to spot if there are any gender imbalances going on. And likewise, we could do that across the whole school if we wanted to. We could go for all students in our school and we could see how the females are performing relative to the males. Loads of interesting data things that you can get from your students' results. So it's not just a case of seeing whether students got these right or wrong. It's about reading their explanations to really get a depth of their understanding. It's about sharing those explanations with your students to increase their own understanding, and then making comparisons between colleagues to help you learn from each other. All that from setting a quiz. If you want to know more things about this website, for example, we have a feature where you can get a really strong picture of the strengths and weaknesses of any individual student or your class, then just click on the link below the YouTube video and that'll take you to a page where you can access all that information. Take care and bye for now.